justice for my children. What children haven't been hacked and slowly turned against me, which is my child here, and my middle child disappeared in the Philippines. Her mother's hiding her, and has been for about 10 years. I don't even know where her mother is, supposedly in Saudi Arabia, absconding on another visa. It's her habit. But my daughter's moved around between her boyfriend's parents. My daughter is a prime child who's at risk. She's a perfect example of a child that's at risk of being trafficked, moving around with her boyfriend, her boyfriends, and their families, and then sometimes with her mother, who is very abusive. When we were together, I had more than one confrontation with her mom, hitting kids with sticks, with bamboo sticks, with wooden spoons, with brushes, hitting them on the head, taking boards and spanking them with boards. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And then supposedly she's the one that got into a fight with her daughter, that helped her daughter abort my son. Which is why I kicked her out of my house, because I got sick of the violence. I gave her money to start a business and gave her some names of counselors to go to, and I said, we won't be back together until you get counseling. And she disappeared with a guy. But just an example when people are not truly repentant and they go back home and they fall right in with the same people that they did in high school or beginning of college, the same bad groups of people. If you're truly repentant, you may or may not go with those people. You may go with them, say, hey, I'm changed, I'm different, from them, from before. And, I encourage you to, if you want to hang out, maybe you can try something new too, or you'll just detach from them completely. Every person has their own calling, their own path, their own ability to set course and keep it. But this is about me being gone for such a long time. So I didn't hear much from my family. I did sometimes. While I've been gone, I've sent them help. They've sent me help. But the more and more that my brother was associated with this church, the more and more distant our family got. I find it difficult to forgive these people. The pastor told him that it's God's will that he lost his daughter, and I encouraged him to let me get a JAG attorney and help him fight. Very different approaches, and because he was tricked by the social worker. So I believe they're horrible people, that administration there, and what they did to my family. And then apparently some organizing to force me to join their church. Some pretty horrible stuff. And I still don't know the connection of my youngest daughter's mother. We were together a long time with her new guy and his connection to Michigan, and Germany. I still don't know those connections. But it's crazy that she ended up with somebody who frequents our area. Never made sense of that. But, she's being manipulated a little bit. She has no control in a foreign country with limited income, and it's not her country. She has residency permit, not citizenship. She has no control at all. And she's being manipulated. But horrible things have happened to my daughter, my youngest daughter and I. My oldest daughter, she was bullied too, a lot. Until somebody hacked her. And now, if we communicate, another party has inserted themselves into our relationship. And I heard a conversation about a year ago of a couple of older teens, maybe college age, two boys specifically saying the name of my daughter. It's not a very common name. And talking about the Philippines and talking about her. And it sounds like human traffickers to me, or people have knowledge. There's a lot of these kind of scum in Saginaw. A lot. Saginaw County, there's a lot of bad people. A lot. Because they're very limited funding and very liberal latitude towards crime. And it's very political, for being such a small town. This isn't Flint, but they try to be like Flint, but they're not. Flint's very vibrant, even amongst the poverty that's slowly decreasing there, and very lively and very, the political engagement is energetic. The revitalization is full of energy. Saginaw is not Flint. Saginaw has much more racial tension than Flint. I mean, this is a racial powder keg here. It's not Flint. It tries to portray itself as a lot of the apparatus, political apparatus, and infrastructure tries to portray itself as very educated, very open, very welcoming. It ain't Flint. So, needless to say, that's probably why agencies and some people trying their best to either hide programs from us, or deny us. So we're stuck here. It's a form of retaliation. Oh, you want to talk bad about my city or my county? I'm going to keep you trapped. I ain't going to help you. And so repeatedly, my daughter and I are victims of human rights abuses in medical care, in social services, even in daycare. She's been at a couple of daycare that it would appear that I'll say this, at one daycare they were grooming her. Boys walking around without shirts on. Teenage boys. Why are teenage boys at a daycare anyway? And then boys and girls going to the bathroom together. And nobody listens to me. Never. Even the police. Nobody listens to anything I say. Yeah. And then other daycare, they they let people come and work under, it looks like, fake identities. Just some, yeah. And apparently they know people in social work. What I've found around Saginaw County, there's good daycares here. You know, we used to have a good daycare that they closed. And now they're a school. But apparently, because they're social work heavy in Saginaw County, a lot of people know a social worker who can help them get through the inspection, and if there is an investigation, how to get it quickly closed. So all this falls on the parents. They may not know, or things may be told to them that's a mischaracterization or even a lie about the investigation, so they don't know. And a lot of parents don't know how to look up investigations on a daycare. They don't know. So that's our experience. And she's been at some daycares that are racist. The whole attitude is racist. They even teach extremist ideology. So that's that. But, you know, apparently it's the organizing against us. It's just absolutely overwhelming. You know, it's like somebody had a money pot, and for one reason or another, people said, here, take some money out of the money pot and bully the heck out of him and his daughter. If you know him, good. If you don't, well, we have people that live around him that hack him and share what they're doing, where they're shopping, what medical issues they're looking at, where they've made appointments. And then they always recruit people that work at the doctor's offices. Me personally, I've been to 3. That way, my medical care moves at a snail's pace, if it moves at all. And we repeatedly get toyed with. Repeatedly. Soon I may not even have medical care. I'm not getting it now. Barely. Can't believe I gave people. I was at the VA, and for a few hours, so I took in my vitals, my glucose testing, and asked for some more strips, and said, eventually I'll get a continuous monitor. And they said, well, we don't, do prescriptions for that or help people purchase that unless they're on insulin already. I mean, that's after the fact, but I'm just tired of this kind of lazy, passive, destructive medical care. And anybody with pre-diabetes can use a CGM as well. It's becoming very, very popular to help people from going into diabetes. If you're doing a finger prick 2 or 3 times a day to monitor your glucose, it's, yeah, you can count your grams of sugar a day, count your carbs, but in the end, it's only an estimate, 3 to 5 milligrams of glucose per 1 gram of sugar. It's an estimate. You can't predict the pancreas, which is why you shouldn't mess with it. But that's passive, destructive medical care. So I don't even have strips now, you know. All kinds of promises were made. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. You know, lots of stuff when I was there yesterday. And then I come home, find my appointment was canceled. And I'm like, nothing was done. I had an appointment later this week. They canceled it, but they didn't do anything. It's like I went in and they played a shell game on me. They said they were going to do this and this and this. I gave them my vitals and my glucose charts and my logbook. And they made copies supposedly, but no testing strips. I don't see any changes in the system have been made that, like everything we talked to, it's like somebody just led me on just to cancel the appointment. You know, I don't know who to blame for it. I guess I could just blame the whole team. But that's, you know, that's the kind of things that happen to us regularly. We're just toyed with. It's a kind of predatory behavior, you know, you're crossing a boundary, sometimes inflicting permanent harm. You know, somebody that has glucose that's up and down between diabetic to pre-diabetic all the time, bouncing back and forth, and you toy with them regarding sugar and testing strips and monitors. It's predatory behavior, and it can become fatal. This is what we've been experiencing for 8 years. 8 years. You know, the people who live around us will always be African American, and they'll gather in intel, you know, follow us to the store, listen through the walls, try to come in our house all the time, either legally or illegally. You know, I have a whole stack of probably more than 100, 150 notices to enter my house from my complex for the past 2.5 years. Over 100, 150. That's almost half of the time we've been here. That's probably about a quarter. Yeah, about a quarter of the time we've been here. And then people always come in the attic. We've seen evidence of that before. Coming in through the attic or using keys that are circulating. This is how they gather evidence, take pictures and stuff. That's what I've been told. Try to come in and take pictures, take video. Trying to find that magic nugget of what? I don't keep a clean house. I'm abusive. I hold drugs. I mean, what's the magic nugget? But the worst part is when the family, you know, especially a veteran family, they just don't care. Don't care what happened to you. They, you know, they didn't even care that you served. You know, they don't care that you tried your best to boost your family up. And I know some of this is the church. It's very, very controlling, a very high performance, high monitoring group, very. But still, you know, I believe I'm to the point now where I believe people should be held accountable and we should get justice. Doesn't matter if people are brainwashed by a pastor or a bishop, or if people are being controlled by people within the authoritative structure of a church. or if people are, moved in with somebody else and uh, are having some kind of relationship and new life. People are ignoring what happened to us. Some people are participating, and I think they should be held accountable. I'm not speaking in terms of harm. I'm speaking in terms of legality and public shame. There's a time when people felt shame for sin. We've gotten away from that. There's a time when people used to feel shame for inflicting injustice on others. We've gotten away from that. We're a culture without a conscience. While everyone ignores and some step on the necks of the poor to gain their livelihood, while others ignore crimes. So in between, their dangerous or traumatic actions and their job, you know, um, protecting and serving, they find it funny to mock and insult and ridicule others. People who sit on benches who are partial and side with perpetrators but not victims. People that provide housing and take lots of government money but yet don't adhere to the contracts with the government to provide safe, healthy, and secure environments. People who manipulate the need for people to have food, and they take advantage of it by manipulating it and even weaponizing it by giving people food that's maybe barely near the expiration date. That's actually, I'll say it's barely almost expired. It's almost expired. Thawing stuff all the time. Repeatedly thawing and refreezing. Let's see what else. Oh, stocking the shelves purposely, very little, so they can drive prices up. This is in Alaska, folks. Alaska, this stuff happens. Some places like Manhattan, okay, limited supply coming in, and it's an expensive place to live. This is the middle of the Midwest. Matter of fact, Michigan has more than her share of food factories. More than her share. Matter of fact, probably about half of the country's cereal in some way has come through here or through one of the partner companies in another state, partner factories in another state. That's just started, Tons of taco shells are made here. Lots of bread is made here. The list goes on and on, ad infinitum. Dairy. We're part of the dairy basin of the country. So why are people, jacking prices up or allowing, food to be mishandled and they still sell it? Or putting food that's damaged back on the shelf even when people report it. That's very disturbing. We've seen this. Or food that's been tampered with. They appear to investigate it, but then they tape it and put it back on the shelf. Very concerning. There's something wrong in this county. Something wrong. And attracting a lot of people. A lot of people with something is wrong with them. And then the houses that The owners are just disappearing, and the houses are eventually falling in disrepair, and then they're um, gutted and knocked down. I mean, that's crazy. Every week, one or two houses. Oh, it's boarded up now. It's like the people are disappearing or something. I mean, it's good that they're cleaning up the neighborhoods, but still, even if those are people who are involved in criminal activities, we have to adhere to civil rights. Otherwise, we're no better than a banana republic. And if we're going that direction, well, our founding fathers and founding mothers, they left us with a charge. We were left with a responsibility so that governments such as that would not be allowed on this earth. The corrupt, the fascist, the banana republic government where justice and crime depend on who's speaking. There was a time when righteousness was in government. God bless the Lincoln Project. But when things happen to families such as ours, and I know there's other families that are being targeted too. Obviously the homes that used to have cars there, and then all of a sudden, within a few months, they're boarded up and they're empty. Um, somebody is targeting people. I only know my situation, how it's complex. Can I blame one person? No, it's a handful of people. Is there companies I can blame? Well, I sent a letter to my company, my former company, and I was ignored. So I would gesture to say that they're not involved. It's individuals. But yet their hands reach far. The higher ups, their hands reach far. I've found how far their hands reach, all the way into Washington. But yet are they solely to blame? No. But somebody seems to have unlimited money to put in that pot. But my children deserve justice. These people who've done this ruined our life, our family, caused physical harm, at least to me and my youngest. They deserve justice. That means people being led away in handcuffs. And if that's not possible, the community setting them straight. Because just one family, if we allow the power of conscience to be stepped on, that's creating a precedent that it will spread like a fire across the country. That's a very scary country, very scary county. When you ignore human rights and civil rights abuses, they're ignored, or they're preferential to only one religious group or racial group. That's very concerning. When only one kind of single parent household, one gender, single parent household get attention to get on their feet, that's concerning. And when people don't see the benefit of a quick and supportive approach to getting people off of state benefits or welfare, or even people on disability, to get them on their feet, they don't see the long term, and they help people that have no intention of improving their life. Just because you're disabled, I mean, disability, it's you're not going to get rich off of it. So people deserve to be educated, and even if they want, trained on how to have a business. Because disability, it's not a good life. Living in a government building, somebody coming in your apartment whenever they want. I mean, in the government building, it's like that. I mean, they got to give you your 24-hour notice, but still, you're always reminded that it's not yours. You know, it's one step removed from renting an apartment. Because then, at least in your apartment, you make your own rules. You live in a government complex, there's very few rules you can make. And then you can't own a weapon either. That's a thing. No Second Amendment rights. Some of them you don't have the right to criticize the administration of the building. Some places you can't even have a pet, or you can only have one, and it's a certain kind. And you live on an extremely limited income. There's no reason why people who are on disability can't have a better life. You know, there's so much opportunity out there for business. See a lot of people doing braids around Saginaw, something that could be done in a car, in a house, in a coffee shop. See people, doing taxes. You could do taxes, meet with somebody with your laptop or an iPad or something, or a tablet. Meet them again, restaurant. Meet them at the park while everybody's kids are playing. Lots of opportunities for a business. You just have to look. Detailing. People can travel to somebody's house to detail their car. Or meet them in a parking lot. There's so much opportunity for business for even people on disability. They don't have to just sit at home and sit in that government complex. There's a lot of stuff out there. But it's not being told to people. It's not being investigated and explained. You have to ask for it, and you have to be aggressive to find out about that kind of stuff. And in some communities, there's nobody to talk about it. And so the rhetoric of, I'm disability, hey, it's not great, but at least I have an income and a place to stay. People are taught to settle. And that it's okay. I'm not someone that believes in settling. I believe no matter your situation, even if you're on an oxygen machine you have to carry around, things can always get better. Sometimes small strides, sometimes big strides. But if you're not walking, there's no striding. And that's one reason why I do these videos, so that our story is told. Especially with my health declining sometimes, and sometimes moving, forward in treatment at a snail's pace, or being toyed with. It's important that my children get justice. All the things that have happened to us. 8 years. It's affected the future of my children. I can't go back to active duty now. Too much snail's pace health care, or health care that's not even helping. Too much of it. And I won't forget that. I hold several clinics and several people responsible for the fact that I can't return to active duty. I intended to retire in khakis. In one form or another. I should say one service or another. And I hold people responsible. And I'm sure some of their people will retaliate. They do all the time. That's the problem with Saginaw County. When people do great evil like this, either people ignore it or they find it funny. So I continue talking. The more evidence that I throw in YouTube, the more people will screw with the videos. So I just do talking and tell the narrative. But I have a very good memory, at least now. I still have a very good memory. And I see some of these perpetrators every now and then. Some of these perpetrators I see regularly. And it's not funny. And the people who ignore it, they teach the same kind of indifference. They teach it to their children, their grandchildren. It's just shocking. My family. I mean, my immediate family. It's all about religion. Before that church, we were a lot closer. And I could even, build bridges between the rest of our family where we're from. But because of that church, I can't build bridges anymore. So I'm the bad guy. And it's apparent that I can't blame everything on them, but like I said, there's a money pot and somebody is funding people to do these things to us. Somebody who knows me mischaracterized so much of my life. It's not true. And they continue to do it. The people who live around us, when I heard the CPS investigator read his report, I'm like, this is people taking a grain of truth and they distort it into lies. It's like we're surrounded by many, not just living quarters, but some of the places we go to doctors' offices, grocery stores. It's like we're surrounded with a lot of sociopaths. Yeah. But they take a grain of truth and they twist it. They mischaracterize things. They turn it negative. I had one person tell me, well, there's a particular group here that they like to do things the opposite, and that's their culture. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You can't recharacterize reality. That's what cults do. Oh, well, if they yell at you, it's because they intend to bless you, or they intend to, somebody they know is going to do something nice to you. That's insanity. You can't recharacterize reality. If you punch somebody in the face and then you give him $100, you still punched him in the face. You can't recharacterize reality. That's what cults do. And they're never helpful. They're always destructive. One thing I've learned in our 8 years here is religious abuse is one of the biggest problems on the planet. But it's not the only problem. Extremism is also a fundamental problem on our planet, inherent to every area. Just like a Holocaust survivor and human rights activist said, he said one of the biggest problems on the planet is extremism of religion, faith, extremism of thought, ideology, extremism in action, crossing boundaries. And these are all fundamentals of crime and terrorism. If you boil down, I mean, terrorism is a crime anyway, so if you boil down the fundamental of crime, if my life hadn't been destroyed and I could still get help for school, yeah, besides learning how to be a drone pilot, I would be pursuing my PsyD or my PhD to complete my career path to glorify God. It was some poor guy out from the sticks who's from a single parent who's poor and spent a lot of time in foster care and was definitely an at-risk youth, definitely at risk. I didn't have a parent, and I always, think back at all of the things I did do that put me in jeopardy for destroying my future because I didn't have a parent. It wasn't until I left foster care, went to college, that I started to grow up. And the military set me on the right path. But that was the plan. But my fundamental theory in crime and terrorism is that crossing of a boundary, that act, that tendency, that's the fundamental nature of crime and terrorism. They're linked. The idea of crossing boundaries without conscience, without an attitude of reassurance that the boundary crossing is okay from the other party. That's the fundamental nature of crime. And terrorism is crossing that boundary so much that you cause a harm to the others. And when I say others, the fundamental nature of terrorism is othering everyone. You don't hear of terrorists canceling their act because one of their own are in a room or in a building. They continue with it because they other everyone who's not involved in the action that they're about to do. Everyone's othered, which makes it, I believe, the vast majority of terrorism, vast majority, is grievance-based. And that's why I hold to some liberal attitudes. I believe that nation building is one of the most effective ways to stop it. Some people argue about it, but then when they look at the history of U.S. engagements, we always nation build. So, it's just an unspoken thing. Nation building is the most effective thing at destroying terrorism. But it's the opposite with crime. Nation building with crime does not help. It doesn't. It's a fundamental attitude that has to be changed, and it's always has to be taught from parent to child. Always. If that attitude is eradicated from the home, then it will never go in society. So you can do all the nation building you want. It's not going to help crime. That's the difference between crime and terrorism. Even though they're linked, they're also different. And what's happened to my daughter and I, this is crime and terrorism. All the things the past 8 years. Some of them are terrorist. Whatever the ideology is, people don't like my religious opinions, or they don't like that I've, tried my best to fight human trafficking when I'm abroad or in uniform, or both. Or whether people believe a bunch of crap on the internet about me, or about my youngest daughter's mother, or people just don't think that a veteran can handle being a single parent, or I mean, who knows? Or people don't like the deployments that I volunteered for, or whatever. Or people just don't like me because they don't like direct people. I mean, whatever the reason is, there's always something. It's still criminal and terrorist what's happened to us. And you know, when some of the people providing us various kinds of care or something, or retail, or you know, some kind of social service program, when I have a better background than they do, that's concerning. Should be the opposite. I'm not saying that I should have done crime. I'm just saying that they should have a better record than I. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I certainly tried to distance myself from that at-risk youth that I was, without a doubt. I mean, I can't blame my mom completely. She was always working or trying to create a family. You know, it's never easy for single parents. I wish she would have tried better to make amends and rebuild relationships with her family instead of always just not thinking about it. You know, you can't leave your family behind. People think, oh, I don't go there anymore. Yup, that part of my life is gone. It's not. You carry it with you in your DNA. You can't leave your past behind. You can leave behind your past behaviors and change directions. But you can't leave your past behind. You always carry it with you in your DNA and in your mind. And in your soul. Some interactions will leave a mark on your soul, good or bad. But, you know, I guess I'm not like my family. I believe that people should always try to make amends. And fix things, especially as you get older. You know, a church family is not a family. It's a church family. That's it. It's very different when God places you on this earth with specific people. He has a plan. You know, so you try your best to get those people if they're going in a bad direction, or they don't want to, you know, have a good relationship with you. You try to fix it. You know, sometimes you can't. And some people don't want to change. They're always going in a bad direction. Or they're always filled with animosity. You can't control other people. What you can control is how you approach them. But I mean, you know, maybe there's a time that you give up, but I've known enough people who are dying and read enough from people who are dying to know that it's those interactions that you couldn't fix. You couldn't make peace with this person. The relationship, one party didn't want to try to build on it. Or one party, you know, found, oh, you know, the ideology is too different. This can't be pursued. That's what people think of, and they wish things were different while they're leaving this plane and going to the next. We're made for each other. I know that sounds like some liberal, you know, warm, fuzzy nonsense, but it's true. Sometimes things get in the way. You know, it's not to say that we ignore evil. No, that's not what it's saying. It's saying sometimes if evil doesn't want to change, then you have to find ways to make it change. And still in the end, some evil people will never change. It's just a reality of the universe. Sometimes a dark rock with lots of sharp points on it will always be that, a dark, sharp rock that's abrasive with lots of points on it. Its fundamental nature won't change. So sometimes you'll have very bright, very beautiful rock that has edges that cut. These things don't change their nature. Neither does fire or water. So you have to accept that as well. There'll always be evil in the world. There'll always be great good in the world. But we're made for each other, people. That's the way that God made the universe. We're not, it's unnatural for us to be opposed to one another. That's why God said to Cain, Cain, where's your brother? And Cain said, I don't know where my brother is. Am I my brother's keeper? And then God said, you know where your brother is, Cain. You know what you've done. The earth cries out with your brother's blood. We're not meant to be opposed to one another. That's not his intention. It's our mistake. So we'll hold accountable our blood that was spilled more than once, but especially at Countryway, where my blood was spilled there, and all the tears and the suffering of my children. I will get justice. I will, for my children, get justice through legal means, and through shame. They will get justice, and they will admit their crimes, and they will apologize to my children, and they will change the direction for my children's life. I will get justice.